Okay, this camera is a little hard to use free-handed like this, but I had a question come up, priming issues with the X10. Well, all I can speak from experience-wise is 223, so I'm going to tell you how I handle this. A few things going on. You've got these pinch bolts here, okay? Mine weren't tight, and I actually just checked these the other day. I did tighten them up. Swaging. So you're going to want to make, out of a case, you're going to want to do a cutaway. You're going to want to place that cutaway up here so that you can physically witness how deep your swager is going. If you sort of press that down, you can look. I don't know how well that's focusing, but you can look up in there. Set your swaging off of this. Another thing, possibly your hold down die, is your hold down die. You can set your hold down die off this as well. Though the hold down die is naturally just going to hold this down. But there's not a whole lot of lift. Another thing that you are going to want to check, obviously, is your down here, your primer seating rod or stem. Another thing you want to keep an eye on is make sure these are not backing out and then loosening, and then this is this can develop play, okay? This whole thing can develop play as well. That's why these pinch bolts are important, and torquing these fucking pricks down. If you do degrease all this, maybe a little blue Loctite if you're having problems. The other thing I recommend is setting your priming, and I know this is hard, but trying to adjust things with, even though I didn't do this, I didn't need it, but sometimes adjusting things with a full turret will help. Another thing that helped me greatly was I run two case mouth expanding dies, and I've talked about this. I don't know if I did a setup video or a excuse me. I did a video. Maybe it was on just the video was titled something running this press on 223 or something. But I run two different case mouth expanding dies. Now, the case mouth expanding die over the priming station does not expand the case mouth at all. I've got it set a little too high for case mouth expansion, but what it does do is the case mouth expanding mandrel does go in the case mouth, just not high enough to the taper to swell it. But when it goes in there, it holds that brass perfectly straight over the priming station. That's another key tip. Now, another key tip is when you're doing the assembly, or even afterwards, it don't matter, but go through your primer, your priming mechanism. Make sure that the screw up in there that holds this plate, your priming plate, I'm going to call it, make sure that that's tight. You have to make sure all this stuff is set and tight. And you should be off to the races. Now with 9mm, you're not going to need a case mouth expander, I don't think, over that station. I have a 9mm press, and to my knowledge, I don't ever remember it giving me a fit with priming like the 223. But your biggest offenders is generally going to be either your swaging, or these bolts, any of these bolts have come loose, or it's going to be centering over the priming station. Indexing is another one. Make sure that your plate is indexing properly. And but those are the thing. Indexing all your bolts, setting your swager to go deep enough, because even if it's priming reliably, and I have this issue, and that's why this is off, and I was adjusting it yesterday. Every once in a while, 5 out of 100 will end up like so. And I don't know. Yeah, see that? 5 out of 100, like 2, 1 of 10, or whatever. I get these once in a while, and the reason you're getting these, your swager is not taking all that crimp off, and these start to go in. They start to go in goofy. See, there's another one. Now I pull them, but still, you're wasting a primer. And primers are not cheap. So if you're having those issues, do all those things I told you. I know that a lot of guys want to run that powder check die and all that. I've never really needed that die. I've never had that issue with any of these style powder measures. I've never needed a powder check, powder cop die. Even running 9mm, I trust all my powder measures to drop powder. And I've never had one not drop powder. So I get away with running two of the case mouth expander dies here, versus trying to move the powder measure and all that around. So those are the tips. That's what I got for you. Here's your ram screw down here, and a ram screw. Let's see, a ram screw here, and a ram screw here. Sometimes you can check them, but I think yours should be tight. But just check all the bolts. You don't need to check. You don't need to check this one. At least you shouldn't have to. But I will say I had a loose one on the other side. That sort of gave me an issue. But yeah, check all those. Set these to the right height. You should be off to the races. If you do have any more issues, and always keep this always keep this for future reference, because you never know when eventually something backs off. You've got to set it again, or you take all this apart to clean it. You've got to set it again, whatever it may be. Maybe you change this. Maybe you change this die. You don't want this die. You've got to set a new die. You've got this piece of equipment here. But all right, that's it. Those are just quick tips. If you have any problems, get a hold of me in the comments, and I'll try to walk you through it. I'll make a video if you need it. We'll go from there.